For adults with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms, every choice matters. Tremfya offers self-injection or intravenous infusion from the start. Tremfya is administered as injections under the skin or infusions through a vein every 4 weeks, followed by injections under the skin every 4 or 8 weeks. If your doctor decides that you can self-inject Tremfya, proper training is required. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease and adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Our nation has always counted on us to win, to fight for what better could be, to secure our future together. We are Marines. We were made for this.
This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Welcome back to Money Moves. I have the giggles right now.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you live in downtown Las Vegas Circa Resort and Casino. I have the giggles right now. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be professional coming in here. But a moment ago, I cracked my back, and Jonathan, without pause, just, like mid-crack, just said, ew, was that your body?
Yeah, I was like, it's a very audible crack, and you were in a very odd stretching position. I don't know. It was kind of.
Do you say that people like crack their fingers in front of you too, or are you grossed out by it?
I cracked my fingers a lot. It was just you were stretching in a very. I've never seen somebody contort their body in the way that you did to stretch the way that you did.
I'm a bendy person.
Yeah.
My chiropractor has even called my neck like Gumby neck.
Okay.
Which means he has to like go extra, I guess, to get the appropriate crack.
I've been wanting that. I need to get my neck cracked. Pretty good.
Change your life. Okay. We got to get into this. We're 1 hour in the books. If you missed any of our conversation, specifically Call Me Crazy, which was really fun today, remember, you can always find Money Moves wherever you get your podcasts as well. Stay caught up. Listen to each and every hour of the show every week. Still to come this hour, we'll get into Do You Approve This Move, looking at some of the early line movement from the college football opening numbers yesterday, as well as the NFL, looking ahead to this weekend and some changes that we've seen following Sunday's action. We'll have best bets at the end of the hour. We are going to discuss some of the indictment news that came down in Major League Baseball as well with Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz. But we're going to kick things off here with Monday Night Football because we do have a big game on deck between the Packers and Eagles today. Depending on where you look, this number is anywhere between 1.5 in favor of the Packers or pick 'em like it is here where we're broadcasting from. You can still find a 44.5 out there if you wanted the over, 45.5 if you wanted the under.
I like the Eagles here.
Sell me on it.
Well, I still think so. First off, we'll start with the decline of the Green Bay Packers defense. We've kind of seen it a little bit. Like they've slipped to it's not like they're abhorrent. They're an average defense. But I still think we're kind of doing this thing where we're power rating Green Bay as an elite contender, and I can understand it to an extent. When you look at the way that they play on offense, they do have that. I mean, they're the second best team in terms of efficiency, expected points added. Like, there's a lot there for Green Bay to write home about where this is one of the best offenses in the NFL. Totally understand that. But as we have seen with Green Bay, it has its flaws. We could talk about the underperformance of a team or of this team like they did against Carolina. But you just look at the way that they've played here. Obviously, the game against Dallas comes to mind. The game against the Cardinals where you go out there on the road and you're kind of trailing throughout most of it, allow Jacoby Brissett to have some success. By the way, I mean, I don't know if it says more about how good Seattle is or about the opponents that we talked about with Jacoby Brissett, but that turned into a pumpkin pretty quick yesterday against Arizona. I think this team is a little bit more flawed than the market wants to give it credit for, and we have seen an adjustment. But I will again invoke what we talked about on Friday for our market power ratings. The market had the Green Bay Packers like a point behind the two elite teams. Now, maybe they're not as elite after this last weekend, but Kansas City and Buffalo was right behind them. It was ahead, obviously, of Philadelphia. Median home margin of victory heading into this week was 1.5 points. So if you use 1.5, the opening number told you they were better. This would tell you they're equals. I just don't think that's the case. I think Philly, given their health, which looks good, we talked about the injury report, they're, I would say, argue the healthiest they've been for most of the season coming into this game. And given the decline we've seen in Green Bay's defense, I think that I'd rather back the Philadelphia Eagles.
healthiest they've been, and adding, because they bring in Jalen Phillips this week, which was one of the big trade acquisitions around the trade deadline, which also that just makes the Miami win that much uglier for Buffalo, knowing that they were offloading pieces and everything. Did you see the video also of McDaniel driving past the elbow room in Florida?
No, I did not.
So and
I saw the locker room celebration.
He addressed it on the podium saying AI exists, but I don't think that he actually that was AI. I think that was a real video of him kind of trolling fans. Okay, neither here nor there. I just thought it was funny. If you should Google it because it's a pretty funny visual. It looks like it is for sure him. But with that in mind, I understand where you're coming from with Philadelphia. I just don't know if I trust them. If I had to make a bet on this game, I would probably take the points with the Eagles, but I'm not sold enough to do anything on it. You and I are still just going to sweat out the leg of the teaser to close out what we paired with the Lions last week and see how that plays out.
Can I point out just real quick something here, which is going to be interesting to watch? These short yardage situations. If you look at some of the numbers, Green Bay's run defense, there are some blemishes there in terms of they don't stuff a ton of runs. They're pretty average. Behind the line of scrimmage, they don't cause a lot of explosive plays defensively. They're 16th in terms of amount of runs stuffed against them. They're also 27th in power success rate on defense. So essentially, 2 yards or fewer, goal to go, 3rd and 4th down. Are you stopping those power situations? They're not good at it. And we've got a team here who we know is one of the best in terms of power football in running it and what they do. So some of these short yardage situations, Philly should also have a pretty big advantage in thus leading to, again, I think a slight edge for this team. Yeah,
the thing with Green Bay that I've been kind of going back and forth on is I feel like they play down to lesser than opponents, but they do get up for the big game as well. And knowing the way they lost a week ago to a team like the Panthers at home, having that opportunity in primetime once again in their own building, Jordan Love didn't have a passing touchdown. See how that offense can turn things around too. Although I think they've got an uphill battle to an extent figuring out what life looks like after Tucker Kraft, because he was such a key piece of their offense as well. And as I'm speaking, I'm talking myself more into the Eagles side of things. That said, let's look into the prop market here a little bit. Some BetMGM data from John Ewing on X came through this morning. One that I thought was interesting is how much love Devonta Smith is getting when it comes to the receiving yards today. Most bet player prop on BetMGM, according to him, also said the one-way traffic props that stood out going through the data, so props that are taking 99% of the money on a single side. Smith over his receiving yards, Christian Watson over receiving yards, Jalen Hurts under 27.5 pass attempts, Saquon Barkley over 2.5 receptions, and Romeo Doubs under 54.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I wonder, I don't know how many people will check these out, but some of the DVOA numbers would tell you that against number 2 wide receivers, this is a defense in Green Bay that ranks 21st. So maybe these secondary pass catchers outside of the number ones are going to get it done. I always do wonder how you classify these in terms of 1 receiver, 2 receiver, and what you do there. Maybe just go by depth chart, whatever it is. Either way, if you buy into that somewhat blindly, then it would look like Smith is probably going to be in for a good day, considering Green Bay's overall struggles, according to some of these. But, prop-wise, I don't know. I'm more curious about what you brought up. Who gets the share of the workload now that Kraft's gone?
Yeah.
From a target standpoint, you could try to catch the falling knife and guess which one of these pass catchers for Green Bay. By the way, they have, 3 receivers listed as questionable today, too?
Yep.
Who are you going to try to go, I think it's this one? Or do you go somewhere, like I brought this up with Kendall Valenzuela when I talked to her earlier on our show on Sirius XM Fantasy. I think Warren Sharp brought this up with us yesterday, the Josh Jacobs receiving prop. Do you try to go in that direction in terms of receptions? The market's really hammered it, though. It's like 2.5 over -175. But
that's what I was going to say. I was like, when we were on the air, it was already 150, and it's still gone up.
Do you try to spread this out? Do you try to go after these linebackers? Do you try to get some of those targets in a different fashion than just plugging in another receiver and saying, here, let's get it done, and you are the beneficiary of it? But, yeah, you see there, 2.5 -175, or maybe even over on the receiving yards. But as we've discussed, I like to go receptions or carries because I'm kind of guess the workload, and then we don't really know what the success is going to be like when they get those touches.
If you think he could get more than the 2.5, the over 3.5 is +135, but there is a big difference between those two numbers.
And it's not likely or in super negative game script, right? It seems like it's going to be a tight game, so it's not like you're going to be in a situation, one would assume, where Green Bay is going to have to throw their way back into it. It can happen, but the likelihood, if we believe in the market, is that it's not going to be the case.
The receivers you mentioned, questionable. Matthew Golden, he was the one DNP all week. So of the three, I would say he's probably the least likely to go, but still listed as questionable. Dontavian Wicks and Savion Williams both were able to log a couple of limiteds the back half of the week. But yes, all three of them sitting questionable right now, which is not ideal when it comes to this. I know the guru, John Hansen, earlier this morning on Prop Points was looking at some touchdown scores, and Christian Watson was a name that he really liked. Yeah. Anything from that standpoint that's caught your eye? His anytime touchdown score, by the way, priced at DraftKings plus 275. I've seen as high as plus 290.
I don't really know what to do with them.
Yeah.
Maybe you had a read on this, didn't you?
No.
No? Oh, I'm sorry. I misremembered. I apologize.
I was just asking earlier. I thought that he might have had an injury setback, but I didn't find anything.
Oh, okay. I thought you were looking for a reason. I thought you were sniffing something out there.
No.
No, I think so. One of the things that I'm going to be interested in as well from Green Bay's standpoint, I mean, I've brought it up a bunch of times, this kind of second corner spot for Philly and how are you going to make up for it and what's going to look like. And they've done a little bit better there, but I don't know, Dory Jackson's still out there. Do you try to find a way to target one of these guys? But again, like, who's going to be the dude? So do we go, here's one for you, if we're invoking Green Bay's defense, which is prone to not generating negative plays, but also doesn't give up a ton of explosive runs. Do you go longest rush under today for some of these Philly runners, including Saquon Barkley?
What is the number for Barkley? Hold on, let me pull up the rushing
because this
tab.
Is because mine's only showing. Oh, they've resorted. I don't like this. I don't like the separate tabs. Like, just give me everything all in one page.
Longest rush, Saquon Barkley, 18.5.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, 12.5.
So you could go under longest rush because, again, Green Bay defensively, while they have some of these issues in these short yardage situations, they rank pretty high in terms of limiting explosive runs, second level yards per carry, open field level yards per carry, explosive rush rate. So do they do a good job of just containing Barkley and not giving him that? And generally with Barkley, you're getting some pretty big numbers in terms of longest rush. Like you said, 18.5. Pretty big number.
Question for you. Since Barkley finally had the breakout day last week, albeit against, 2 weeks ago now, albeit against a Giants team that is really bad against the run, do we think that those numbers start to trend up, though? He went for 150 on 14 carries, had both a rushing and receiving touchdown, but considering the averages were significantly lower than they were a year ago leading up to that week, do we think we start to trend more in the upper 70s, 80s plus moving forward?
If not, it might be this week, considering coming off of a bye. Going to be pretty fresh.
His props at 75.5 today. Josh Jacobs on the other side in the rush game, 66.5. You hear that music, that means we got to step aside when we come back. Do you approve this move, looking at how the market reacted to what we saw on the field Saturday and Sunday in college football and the NFL? We'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
ProfitX is changing the game for sports bettors. You can get a 20% deposit match on up to $100 on your first purchase, plus 0% commission on player props and 1% on everything else. Every $50 you wager on parlays in November earns an entry to win $500 in a restaurant gift card of your choice, with drawings each and every Tuesday as well. Real markets, real prices, no house edge. Download ProfitX now and use the promo code VSiN to get started. That's VSIN when you download ProfitX. Let's roll that. Do you approve this move open?
Let's see where odds are moving today in Do You Approve This Move?
There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. Time for Do You Approve This Move on a Monday. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. We're going to start in the NFL. Commanders and Dolphins. International series continuing this week from Madrid. Washington on the look ahead. JBT was actually a 1.5-point favorite, but without Jaden Daniels, other injuries piling up, getting roasted and toasted on Sunday. Reopened up here a 1-point dog. Dolphins bet up from 1 to 2.5 following the performance against the Bills. Are you buying it? Do you approve the move?
Well, so the question now becomes, did anything happen over the weekend that would make you now think that the Commanders are a worse team than the Miami Dolphins? Because last week the thought was they were, because you mentioned the look headline. I don't think really that's the case. I know that you had a couple of guys. Trey Amos of the secondary was ruled out during the game. Jonathan Jones and Chris Rodriguez in that backfield, and then also at corner did not return. So maybe there is some injury concern here for Washington that you want to monitor. But I always want to be hesitant on overreacting to one result. And now this is two. Miami gets a big win over Buffalo. Washington gets smoked by Detroit. But I feel like maybe it might be a little too strong.
My one counter would be that this Commanders defense has just looked worse and worse.
They're old, man. Yep.
The last 4 weeks, 31st in yards and points allowed. So just not great. That said, and I know this is a topic for another day, Jaden Daniels does come back and he's healthy. Are we playing him? I would say probably not. Don't even do it.
I mean, it depends on where they're at by the time he comes back. Because what was the timeline?
Don't do it.
Yeah,
season's over.
I would say yes. There's no need to put him out there for three meaningless games.
So we already talked about Monday Night Football. Packers on deck today against the Eagles, but looking ahead to their matchup with the Giants coming up. Green Bay from 7 to 8.5. Jackson Dart, we mentioned in concussion protocol. Russell Wilson had to finish the game for the G-men yesterday. Line could continue to move depending on what Green Bay looks like tonight. But what do you think of the initial shift?
I mean, it just depends on what Dart's going to do. If Dart's going to play, I would assume that we're going to start to head back in the direction of where we opened. And subsequently, like you said, if Philly rolls Green Bay today, which again, doesn't seem likely, but is a possibility, then you're talking about still a pretty solid adjustment to the point where it's probably like just 7. I would expect that you don't get underneath 7 again. But if Dart plays and Green Bay loses handily, you're probably back to that opener.
I thought this was interesting going through some of the game logs this year. Packers at laying 6 or higher this year. 0-5 ATS with 2 outright losses in that. We mentioned the Panthers and Browns of it all, the tie against the Cowboys as well. So
it's like they're 3 big. That's a really good point. When they've been at the peak in terms of that number, they have fallen flat on their face each time.
Yep. Buccaneers and Bills, both teams in a bounce-back spot coming up this coming Sunday. Bucs with the tough day against New England. Had a chance late, couldn't pull off the rally. Bills, we just mentioned what happened with them against Miami. They're getting faded here early from 6.5-point favorites down to 5.5. What do you think of the move?
I mean, we're early on, so I do wonder what weather will be like if there is going to be any potentially. But I will say, don't you think on the surface, Tampa Bay could probably have some offensive success against this Bills defense?
Yeah.
If the weather's right, I think this seems like a high-scoring game. But I also think we've kind of learned, I don't know if Buffalo is that far ahead of these other, we'll call them powers. Tampa Bay is a division leader at this point. But amongst these contenders, I don't think Buffalo has that gap between them and a team like Tampa Bay.
I completely agree with you on the Bucs side of it, but I also thought that the Bucs offense would perform much better yesterday against the New England Patriots. So TBD, I'll have to read into that a little bit more. Bengals and Steelers, icy hot bowl rematch. Although worth noting here as well, Joe Burrow back at practice today for the first time, albeit in a limited capacity as they try to get him back. Coming off the bye, though, Cincinnati getting backed after the Steelers had a tough look yesterday. Pittsburgh from 6.5-point favorites at home to 5.5.
Yeah, so everybody can make the case that Joe Burrow can totally lead them back, even though they're 3-6 and on the outside looking in. I mean, you know how I feel. Interesting, though, our journey. Let's go back to Thursday night, 3 or 4 weeks ago at this point, where Pittsburgh was laying 5.5 on the road. And now here they are at home laying that number against Cincinnati. So Bengals have been, I think, proven to be a little bit more capable than we initially thought under Joe Flacco. Steelers are obviously a team that's slipping here. I think it's probably a fair number. That's probably the boring way to say it, but you know me. I think I'd rather be on the side of anybody else playing against Pittsburgh than on Pittsburgh themselves.
We can batch these next two because they go hand in hand in the NFC West. The Seahawks, the big win, Rams after the big win as well, winning by margin. They got to face each other this week. And Seattle getting a little bit of love here. We've fallen off of that 3 in favor of the Rams at home to 2.5. And then the Cardinals and Niners, who got shellacked by the aforementioned Rams and Seahawks, facing each other as well. Arizona from pick'em to getting 2.5 points against the 49ers.
I ask you this all the time, but I'll ask you again. Assuming he's at full health, is Brock Purdy an upgrade?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
But, Mac Jones has played really well. He had
That's
a 3-touchdown day yesterday, too. I think he's one of the best, if not the best, backups in the league to this point.
Because I would assume this upgrade here, the move in the direction of San Francisco is twofold. It's Arizona, and it's also the assumption that maybe Brock Purdy's finally going to come back.
Shanahan said he could have gone yesterday, but, quote, didn't want to put him in that situation, adding he does believe that Purdy is closer and farther along than when they put him in earlier this season. Said, quote, hopefully he'll have a chance this week. So that's a whole lot of nada and a lot of coach speak from Shanahan again.
Also, I'll drink the Kool-Aid. That 3 pops back up. Give me it with Seattle.
Okay. Last one here in the NFL. Chiefs and Broncos. Battle of the AFC West. John Murray over at the Westgate said he expects some more public, heavy action on KC. They're out from 2.5 to 4 already early in the week.
And I hate this. At the beginning of the show, I teased that there is a team that I think is a little overvalued against a team that I hate.
That's a good tease.
I think give me Denver, man. Catching 4 at home. Their defense is still legitimately good. Kansas City has not proven to be consistent. The loss to Buffalo does look a little different considering what the Bills just did against Miami. I'm not putting it all on that. I don't think Bo Nix is great, but as we talked about, the AFC stinks. Stinks is strong. It's not as good as the top of the NFC. I don't think there's that much separation between all these teams at the top in the AFC, and to the point where, if this was back, on a neutral, again, if we're going with the concept of home field being worth 1.5, we're talking 5.5 on a neutral. We're talking, 7 at home for KC? We'd really trust that that's the gap between these two? I just don't know if that's the case.
Plus potentially a buy low point just because of how bad it looked for the Broncos on Thursday night. Now they've got some added rest, see what they can look like in what we expect to be a pretty competitive game already. Let's shift gears to college football and go a couple at a time here. Arizona and Cincinnati. The Bearcats out from 5.5 to 6.5 point favorites coming out of what was a much needed bye after the gut punch day with College game day there against the Utes. Arizona, though, not an easy out. And then we've also got a top 10 matchup between Texas and Georgia. UGA -6, that's been firm, but a 2-point swing on the total toward the under. Either of those moves stand out to you?
I think the under. Texas is very good defensively, but I am curious. Georgia, we brought this up a lot. I do the college football show on Saturdays here locally, which is, Georgia defensively, especially on the back end, they can be had. Their pass defense statistically is not as good as you would think for a Georgia Bulldogs group. And I will say, Arch Manning, his last 2 starts, well over 600 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's played pretty well. What if this is actually starting to turn around here for Texas?
Very disappointed, by the way, in Mississippi State. Looked good at the beginning. Looked good.
First drive, I'm like, what a call. And then, okay.
Memphis at ECU. Eastern Carolina out from 2.5 to 3, getting played here after the Tigers lost on Friday to Tulane. Virginia Tech at Florida State. FSU from 11.5 to 13.5. And the Irish at Pitt, where College game day will be this week. Pitt on a 5-game win streak, playing some good football. The Irish, though, gotta have it to keep their playoff hopes alive.
The Memphis one is more interesting. The old school handicapping angle is the dream crusher. You had everything in front of you, and because you lost this weekend, you can still win a conference championship potentially, but the college football playoff berth all but to the wayside now. You wonder what that effort is like now going on the road to an opponent like East Carolina.
I agree with what you mentioned earlier, though. JMU feels like the bet to make right now to wake the CFP plus 190. Oklahoma and Alabama. Oklahoma getting played at least a little bit to move off of that 7 in favor of the Tide from 7 to 6.5. Utah out from 8.5 to 9.5 at Baylor. Ole Miss from 12.5 out to 16.5. Florida maybe packing it in. They played the close game with Georgia for the interim bump and then got crushed by Kentucky. CSU at New Mexico. The Lobos from 12.5 to 14.5. The game I will be on this weekend, TCU at BYU. The Cougars in a bounce-back spot after the loss to Texas Tech from 4.5 out to 6. And then Boise State at my Aztecs, SDSU, from -1.5 to -3. Can you trust the Aztecs after what we just saw?
What could have been, but please let our audience know the strongest going trend in college football.
What?
With BYU.
Oh, fun fact for you all. The BYU Cougars have never lost a game with me on the sideline. I want to say it's 11 or 12-0. Only once in that time have they also not covered the spread.
Wow, really? They didn't give me that earlier. That's a good one.
Stunning. We'll be right back on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This Monday edition of Money Moves, Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you live in downtown Las Vegas at Circa Resort and Casino. Justin Emery at the controls, as always, in the producer chair as well. And yesterday when we were on the air for Live Bet Sunday, we're covering all of the early window NFL games when we get some really interesting news from Jeff Passan in the MLB world, breaking down what has been now an official 23-page indictment where Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz have been indicted for a form of pitch rigging. They have been officially charged with fraud, conspiracy, and bribery in an alleged scheme for gamblers to win money. Ortiz was arrested Sunday morning at Logan Airport in Boston. He is appearing in court today. Clase not yet in custody and remains out of the country. But a lot to unpack, I think, from this, especially coming off of the heels of everything that came down just a week or so ago in the National Basketball Association as well with Terry Rozier and company.
Yeah, and the way Passon presented it yesterday was kind of confusing because it made it sound like they did it for like $4,000 or $3,000. That was the individual pitches themselves, like in those moments. If you go deeper into the indictment and everything, you have the total of $450,000 won by these guys. So, look, this was caught. Yet again, we're talking about this. I'm more curious as to, first off, how far this is going to go. We've kind of known about everything that has come out so far, to an extent. Like, we didn't know about the poker games, but we knew that Terry Rozier was involved. We knew that Jonte Porter was involved. We knew about these two. We didn't know the extent to which they were doing it, but we just knew that every single one of these. Even the other day when the NCAA releases and those players from New Orleans and the other schools get banned, we knew those schools were involved. We were just kind of waiting what's going to happen. My curiosity now becomes, is this it? Will there be more that we don't know about? Will there be more, a Chauncey Billups-ish popping up where it's a name that we didn't really hear, all of a sudden he's getting arrested, whatever it is, and how far this goes? And frankly, how many sports? I mean, we've talked about college sports, we've talked about professional baseball, we've talked about professional basketball, but where else this starts to manifest if there is more that potentially comes down? And as I keep saying, what is next? Congress has asked for the NBA to give them essentially a report on everything going on with them and in the Terry Rozier investigation. I would assume that Major League Baseball is next from Congress in terms of what they're going to ask, and whether or not this is going to lead to a push for some sort of overall federal regulation for what's happening here.
Yeah, we'll see what the next steps ultimately end up being, but I feel like we're repeating a lot of the same stuff every time we see a new one of these items pop up. But from my standpoint, I feel like this is a billboard in a lot of ways for how the relationships that major sports books have with professional leagues, that it's working, that the books are identifying the suspicious activity, whatever is out of the norm, they are reporting it. This is something that, in my mind, helps with the integrity of the sport more than it hurts it, that we are catching these guys when they happen.
You have to get smarter, too. You're going to get some of the details on this?
Yes.
Did you see some of these? Go ahead.
Yes. So I did want to say, Clase is definitely the worst of the two, and how this, he seems to be kind of the aggressor and the creator of a lot of this, beginning at least in terms of what was flagged May 19th, 2023 in a Mets Guardians game. He relayed information he would throw a pitch over 94.95 miles per hour. Bettors reportedly won $27,000 on that pitch. Again, the totality of the indictment says that this has gone about a 3 or so year period, with bettors making around $460,000. Ortiz didn't join the scheme until June of 2025, where per the indictment, this is where the $5,000 thing came up that Passon was posting about. He agreed to be paid $5,000 to throw the first pitch of an inning for a ball. Clase was also paid $5,000 for arranging it. The bettors wagered a total of $13K on the pitch. And then when he got the money, Clase told him to say it was a payment for the horse. For a horse. He participated, according to the document, on 2 occasions. Yeah. But Clase, this has been going back for a couple years, and there are specific instances that are flagged.
Yes. After the April 2025 one was my favorite one, where Clase got bribed to do it in terms of throwing specific pitches, and then texted him, I think, from the clubhouse.
Yes.
Did you bet it?
Yes.
Come on, dude, we got to get smarter.
And that's him giving money to be bet, not only like him giving money to be bet on his behalf for his pitches as well that he's thrown in the dirt or whatever it is.
And I will say we should be fair in that, I've been pretty loud about, the system caught it. We have to stop being ridiculous. You don't strip these things. I will say these sort of bets, like the over-under pitch faster than 94.95 miles an hour, things of that nature, those are things that I don't think you need being offered at certain places.
Sure.
So that is the stuff that is very easily fixed if you're not an idiot and you're not betting $13,000 on it and getting flagged and caught. Then I think that's something that is probably a bet in a market we could do without. Player props individually, points, rebounds, strikeouts, earned runs, things like that. I think we're doing a little too much if you're taking those down, but pitch speed, ball strike, I don't really think that's necessary.
I'm also surprised you can get down that much money on a micro bet that's happening as live action is going on, right? Like, that seems a little bit peculiar to me that you can bet that much money on something like that.
I would assume you have quite a few people that are helping you put those bets in. Yeah.
But like,
Yes.
considering like if you try to fire $100 on something, sometimes you're getting the spinny wheel and you're not allowed to do it. So that was something that at least caught my eye as I go. In the world that we live in America, you are innocent until proven guilty, and worth noting at least a couple statements coming out from both players' attorneys. Ortiz's attorney said he, quote, has never and would never improperly influence a game, not for anyone or not for anything. And Clase's attorney saying Clase has, quote, devoted his life to baseball and is doing everything in his power to help his team win. Emmanuel is innocent of all charges and looks forward to clearing his name in court. Meanwhile, U.S. Attorney Joseph Nosella, who we quoted a lot last week when we were talking about the NBA, or 2 weeks ago rather, quote, the defendants deprived the Cleveland Guardians and MLB of their honest services. They defrauded the online public betting platforms where the bets were placed, and they betrayed America's pastime. Integrity, honesty, and fair play are part of the DNA of professional sports. When corruption infiltrates the sport, it brings disgrace not only to the participants, but damages the public trust in an institution that is vital and ideal to all of us.
Yep. I'm going to be curious to see if there's going to be more here in terms of new names. Again, we've known all of these, but I think that I'd be very curious to see if there's more outside of what we know.
What I have never and will never understand is why? Especially when you look at like the type of money that a guy like Emmanuel Clase is making. He's just signed a couple years ago a 5-year, $20 million contract. Yeah. He's set to make $6.5 million this coming year. Why are you doing this? What's the payoff for you? The risk does not make sense to the reward here.
Sure. I mean, that to me is the one, because it's not just it's future earnings you're killing by doing this as well. So it's not just the contract you sign, maybe it's your next one. That to me is where I don't get it. Like, you have money down the road. You're a professional baseball player. You're going to, even if you stink, there's going to be an opportunity for you somewhere. Like, there's going to be more opportunity to make money down the road that you just snuffed out with this.
Yeah. And is your career worth $5K here, $5K there? Yeah. I don't think so, and it's pretty stunning to me that stuff like this is happening. Also worth noting, to bump some of the payouts, these pitches were involved in parlays. I don't know much of the details on the other legs of the parlays and how that played out, but I thought that was an interesting note as well, that a pitch was just added to a parlay leg.
Yeah, well, it goes back to you ever watched Arrested Development? So there's the line, I can't remember what they're talking about, but Tobias' wife at one point asked him, well, is it going to work out for us? And his quote is, or did it work out for those people? And his quote is, no, it never does. Those people somehow delude themselves into thinking it might, but it might just work for us. So, like, it's one of those things where you just don't think you're going to get caught. Yeah. And you did. They were very ham-handed with the way they were handling it, too.
Do you think, because so many of these things have come down in recent history, specifically the last calendar year, that this is what needed to happen to an extent to deter others for it happening in the future?
I think it makes sense. I mean, you're probably going to be scared straight to an extent if you're doing it now or trying to do it. Or, I mean, I don't think it'll be completely gone. At the very least, you're going to plan a lot better to try not to get caught in the way that they were handling this, and not, I don't know, be caught on camera withdrawing $50,000 to be bet on a single pitch and then being watched on said security cameras giving it to to somebody for a said bet.
Some of the details of all of this, whether we're going back to the NBA investigation or here, is just so funny to me. Like, texting him that this is payment for a horse. Yeah. Or with the other stuff, what was the one in the NBA where they were texting each other? Oh, they texted to come back over to the house. Yeah. And then they're all counting their winnings at the house together. It's just such a silly, ridiculous thing. And I know Ortiz doesn't make the same money that Clase does, but still over $780,000 and more than $2.25 million in career earnings for him at this point. Why you're putting things at risk for a quick buck or for your friends to make a quick buck just seems ridiculous to me on the surface.
I would agree.
So I don't know. And it's one of those things, too, where I don't think that there's an excuse for it ever, but especially considering how much major professional sports leagues have in their like preseason documents and up on the locker room, stuff that's posted everywhere. It's not like it's a secret that this isn't something that's allowed.
As you're talking here, prominent U.S. sportsbooks establishing a nationwide $200 betting limit on baseball wagers centered on individual pitches and prohibiting such bets from being included in parlays in an attempt to decrease the incentive for manipulation. Major League Baseball announced today. That's from Purdom, just came down a minute ago.
So there we have.
David Payton Purdom from ESPN Chalk.
I wonder if in the NBA we end up seeing more changes as well to certain things.
Yeah.
And I mean, they already started taking some of those lesser players off, like the lower minute players with certain options that you can bet on them, right?
Kind of surprised the limit wasn't $200 already.
That's what I'm saying, really.
Pitches.
How are you getting down $13K or whatever? Like, I wonder how many sportsbooks truly had to be involved in that for it.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Wrapping up this Monday edition of Money Moves, VSiN, the sports betting network. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Remember as well, if you missed any of the show today, you can always find Money Moves wherever you get your podcast. Download, subscribe. Come hang out with us. Don't miss a minute of the program each and every week. And let's recap real quickly how we did going into the weekend and yesterday. You had a pretty good weekend, I'll say. I had highs and lows, I feel like, coming out. I am glad, though, after the way that the last couple weeks had gone from a teaser standpoint, that we got one home right away yesterday with the Colts leg. I was having a lot of anxiety with the Colts just to win the freaking game in Germany. They did. The Lions played their role. So that was at least a confidence builder. We still have one more teaser leg to close things out tonight with the Philadelphia Eagles plus 8.5. Can we get there?
All this we. I mean, you had a Colts-Lions teaser. I did not.
We have a Lions-Eagles teaser.
We do.
That we need to close out strong tonight.
You had a solid. You were making it seem like you had a bad day.
So here's what happened.
Here's what Stormy did, by the way, if you're watching.
Yeah, you want to throw that up on the screen. The early window of games was not kind to me for a moment, and I needed a lot of help to get those Baker Mayfield pass yards over on those last couple drives, which we ultimately did get there. The Bucs team total could not get over the 24.5. We covered with the Lions. Rashid Shaheed, nothing there in the receiving, but thank goodness Seattle had no problem scoring it well. We catch that in the first quarter. The SGP on Rico Dowdle, we got the anytime touchdown, couldn't get the rush yards because apparently Carolina didn't want to show up and play at home yesterday against the Saints. And then the teaser pending here. And what I'll tell you about these losing props, so Baker Mayfield, Kyle Monangai rush yards and the Rico Dowdle rush yards as well. I should have believed the AI prop projections at VSiN.com.
Yeah.
Because they were telling me to go under on both of those, and I did not believe them. I was incorrect.
AI.
So this is, I do. I treat AI like that sometimes, but the projection models have actually been pretty on point with a lot of the things that I've been betting lately. If you haven't checked them out yet, go to vsin.com/NFL props because you can get data-driven projections for QBs, wide receivers, running backs. We also have an NBA player prop projection tool right now that compares their line directly to what the DraftKings line is right now to find value. And if you want unlimited access to that page and everything we have at vsin.com, vsin.com/subscribe is how you can come join us on that full-time basis. But I have no one to blame but myself for Monangai, Rashid Shaheed, as well as Rico Dowdle because they liked the under in all of them, and I was going over. I was a believer in some of those matchups, and I was wrong.
That's right. It happens. All right, so for me, the weekend recap in the National Football League, did not get there with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers minus 2.5. That was the side that, coming out of the bye, I thought they were going to get a little bit of a better effort. They go right down. They score the touchdown on the opening drive, and then absolutely nothing after that. Get there with the Ravens. The Giants are part of it as well. Falcons against the Indianapolis Colts. So we had a pretty decent week. We're waiting to see if we can cash this last one here with the Lions minus 2 and the Eagles plus 8.5 on that teaser that you and I both share together. So we'll see. Thumbs up. Let's see if we can get it done. You want to recap college real quick?
Yep.
So college, this is why I actually think if I do this in college basketball, and I should do this more in college football, where in college basketball, I like to stick to my guns, where it's just, let's just stick with the conferences that I know. Well, the two Mountain West plays over the weekend got there. UNLV minus 4.5 smoked Colorado State. Hawaii plus 7. These were two pretty much laughers in the Mountain West that you got right. Mississippi State, not so much opening drive. They get there, and that's it. And then the 3 on Friday in the NBA, Hawks -2, don't get there, lose outright. They led it like the first 3 quarters and then let go of the rope in the fourth. Game still goes under, and then Rockets -3.5 on the road against the San Antonio Spurs, lose the game outright. So good, solid weekend. We'll see if we can build on it this week.
I'm sad you cashed your Hawaii ticket with such ease against my Aztecs,
No
but
problem.
a great call, and I think our discussion on West Coast bias about that game was pretty dead on for how things ultimately ended up playing out. For me in college football, I went 1-2, was wrong on the Mississippi State first half, although it looked so good early on against Georgia. The under did come through in Oregon, Iowa first half, and I got a little bit antsy on that final drive of the half, but ended up coming home. Low scoring game, bad weather conditions throughout for that one. Oregon, a little bit of a paper tiger, by the way.
Maybe. Were they ever a tiger?
Yes.
I mean, like we've talked about, the overtime win against Penn State looks different. And that's like their highest moment of the season.
Which I also just don't know if that's fair to judge that with in hindsight, you know?
What has Penn State done? It's not like they've pushed the number 2 team in the country to the brink of a loss.
Dude, crazy.
That was there.
Was that catch not unfreaking believable in the back of the end zone?
I'm sure many have said this. Yes, that was insane. A very good Heisman moment for somebody who's not the Heisman favorite yet, by the way. The other part is, I mean, I don't think I'm the only one that has made this point at all, but that catch saves Indiana's season.
Yes.
Because I think we're all assuming that there's a loss coming in a Big Ten championship game. It's not guaranteed, but they're going to be underdogs to Ohio State. You lose that game to Penn State.
Can't do it.
And then maybe you're looking at a loss as well in the Big Ten championship game, and then we're talking about 2 losses. I mean, that was a season saver.
No shade to Julian Sayin, but Fernando Mendoza should be the favorite now, right? And it's only a 20-cent difference, so maybe it's not that significant in the grand scheme of things, but I thought Mendoza would for sure be at the top of the board today.
So that's why I wanted to ask you this, which is, because I trust your judgment when it comes to this college football stuff. You are on the sideline every once in a while.
My game was awesome, by the way,
it was.
on Saturday night.
You called it. You believed in Cal. You got a good read on him.
I'm not sure I had Louisville on upset watch, but I thought 20.5 was a bit much.
But the dynamic in Heisman, where there's like, what, a 10-cent difference right now between Sayin and 20-cent difference? Okay. Does Julian Sayin have the same cachet? Like, is he thought
He's not even the best player on his team.
That's what I was trying to go down with. I'm stumbling over it. Is he viewed as Brock Purdy? Is he viewed as somebody who has weapons and a good system and is not the driver of the success? Because when I think of Fernando Mendoza in Indiana, I think you actually make the argument for both guys that they are products of the system and the coaching that they get as opposed to driving the winning forward. I could be wrong. Like, I'm genuinely asking this question.
That's kind of why I think Fernando leading that game-winning drive was something he really needed to kind of catapult the argument a little bit down the stretch.
Not to interrupt you, but before that moment, I just saw 2 quarterbacks who were just the starters for the best teams in the country, and I didn't see those are the 2 best players in the country.
I agree. With Julian Sayin in particular, there is obviously a lot to like. He's very accurate. He makes the plays he needs to make, but when you have the talent around you, too, that's a big part of the story as well. And I mean, Jeremiah Smith and that wide receiver room in general is one of the best, if not the best, in the entire country. So, yes, that's naturally going to propel your numbers and make you look better as well. I think the Heisman Trophy, there is still, even with only a handful of games left, a lot of runway for these numbers to change. But I do feel pretty firmly that Fernando winning that game the way he did, having things come together, should have him be the rightful favorite right now.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious to see how this plays out.
Is there a buy point? Like, Marcel Reed at 8-1? Do we think that there's potential for that?
I mean, I don't
Ty Simpson?
I don't get the feeling in this.
No one's grabbed it and said, I am the Heisman Trophy winner.
This seems weak is probably not a fair term, but this does, for lack of a better one, seem like a relatively weak Heisman class. Yeah. In that there is no dominant player that you're looking at and saying, this is unequivocally the best player in college football. I think that there's an argument to be made if you're really going by that. Isn't it still Jeremiah Smith, like the best player in college football? Is it? I mean, you're not going to give it to a defensive player, but there's some defensive players you could say is the best player in college football.
Kid from Texas Tech got a lot of love. Yeah. Jeremiah Love trying to make his case as a running back. I think that I feel in a lot of agreement with what your sentiment was at the top of the board, is that like these are the the quarterbacks for the best teams right
but
now.
Not the best players.
Yeah.
Arch Manning, 300-1. Did he convince you?
Our Trinidad Chambliss thing has also taken a little bit of a hit in recent weeks.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. I was thinking about that. I was like, yeah, I don't think he's going to get there. 70-1.
To go back the last 90 seconds here real quickly about my game this weekend, what do you do in the ACC? Does anyone want to win that conference at this point? Because every opportunity that one of these teams has to have a statement win, they blow it.
Tell you what, I don't know what you do, but I know that my Georgia Tech plus 190 to make the college football playoff has life again. That's all I care about. A three-way tie at the top of the ACC. It is Georgia Tech, Pitt, and I believe Virginia is still up there as well. If it ended today, it would be Georgia Tech and Virginia in the ACC championship.
And what's so crazy about Virginia, too, is that the NC State loss earlier in the season doesn't count as an ACC loss.
So there's still only one loss in ACC play. Yeah.
Just wild to think about. But that's a fascinating league to keep tabs on as we go. I would also monitor in that league, because I don't know how you feel about it. One bid league in your mind?
I think it's in everybody's mind.
Just making sure. That just goes to show, though, do your due diligence when you're going through these markets. Why bet a team to win the ACC when you're getting a better number on them to make the college football playoff, and it's the same bet?
There's a couple of them that are identical, but there's a couple like Georgia Tech and others that are, to your point, there's like 10 or more cents on a yes to make the playoffs.
Yes, so just, again, do your due diligence there. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Fun show, as always. Enjoy Monday Night Football. Good luck with your bets. For Jonathan Von Tobel, our producer, Justin Emery, I'm Stormy Buonantony. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Keep it locked right here. Mitch and Paul coming up next with Follow the Money.